Monday, November 21st, 5 o'clock. Going to call the regular November meeting to order. Everybody stand for the prayer and the pledge.
Good evening, Father. We are assembled here tonight to give thanks to you for all your great provision and how you continue to pour out your love on the sweetest city in America. We also ask your blessings on our city commissioners, past, present, and future. Continue to fill them with your wisdom and your direction. And we thank you for all that you do for us and how you provide for us now and in the days to come. Help us to keep our focus on you. In the wonderful name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I'd like to ask our visitors in the front row to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda this evening?
Only alteration I would recommend is event application item D under the consent agenda. I would suggest you act on it independently since one member wants to avoid the appearance of a conflict of interest on that item.
Okay.
Could do it first or however you want to do it.
Need a motion to approve the agenda as read and the changes as read.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approve say nay. Motion carries. Kathy, you want to go over the certification of the election?
We did receive the certificate from the canvassing board today, the official results. And do you want me to read the number of votes for
Sure.
each candidate, or? Okay. Barbara Edmonds received 749 votes. Rolando Rolly Gonzalez received 557 votes. Hillary Highslope, 904 votes. Ian Stone, 674 votes. Michael Swangler, 118 votes. And Greg Thompson, 718 votes.
So that's the final certification, correct?
Yes.
If I can, I'll just say something on that shortly. There's a lot of people running the city race. Everybody played fair, everybody got along, and very, very few cities that can happen in. If we had 6 people running, we all helped each other out the day of, and I think it reflects on our city. Swearing in. Any particular order?
I'd suggest you go with the newly elected first.
Ms. Edmonds?
Come on up. Please step on up. We have a Bible here if you would like to swear on that.
Her husband's gonna hold it for her. There you go.
Edmonds, if you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I,
Barbara.
Edmonds,
Barbara Edmonds,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida
and of the United States of America,
and of the United States of America,
and being an officer of the city of Clewiston,
and being an officer of the city of Clewiston,
Florida,
Florida,
and a recipient of public funds as such officer,
and as a recipient of public funds as such an officer,
do solemnly swear or
do
affirm
solemnly swear
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and state of Florida,
and state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I am duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and favorably
perform all of the duties
perform all the duties
of the office of Commissioner of the City of Clewiston,
of the office of Commissioner of the City of Clewiston,
on which I am now about to enter.
of which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Do you want me to speak?
Who's up next?
That's a mouthful.
Swear him in now.
Okay, good. Do this again.
Yes, you do.
Right.
What she said. Ms. Hyslop, if you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Hillary Hyslop,
I, Hillary Hyslop,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state of Florida
and of the United States of America,
and of the United States of America,
and being an officer of the city of Clewiston,
and being an officer of the city of Clewiston,
and a recipient of public funds,
and a recipient of public funds,
as such officer,
as such officer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support, protect,
that I will support, protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and government of the United States
the Constitution
and the state of Florida,
and the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified to hold office
that I am duly qualified to hold office
under the Constitution of the state,
under the Constitution of the state,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
perform all of the duties
perform all of the duties
of the office of Commissioner of the City of Clewiston,
of the office of Commissioner of the city,
on which I am now about to enter.
on which I am now.
So help me God.
So help me God. Thank you.
Wait.
Might as well.
Mr. Thompson, if you could please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Greg Thompson,
I, Greg Thompson,
a citizen of the state of Florida
a citizen of the state
and of the United States of America,
and the United States of America,
and being an officer of the City of Clewiston, Florida,
and be an officer of the city of Clewiston, Florida,
and a recipient of public funds,
and a recipient of public funds.
as such officer,
As such officer,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support,
that I will support,
protect,
protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and government
the Constitution and government
of the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Florida,
and of the state of Florida,
that I am duly qualified
that I'm duly qualified
to hold office
to hold office
under the Constitution of this state,
under the Constitution of this state,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will and faithfully
perform all the duties
perform all the duties
of the office of a city commissioner,
of the office of the city commissioner,
on which I am now about to enter.
in which I am now about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you, sir.
No, I already, nobody else goes.
Oh, yeah, that's,
It's time, Mr. Vice Mayor. I would recommend each of you have any comments, make them before we proceed.
Ms. Evans, would you like to make any comments?
I would just like to say thank you to the fellow commissioners, Randy Martin, our city mayor, and Danny Williams for the tour this week. I enjoyed talking to the employees and the directors as they're happy to do that job, and that was exciting for me to see. I'm seeing that our facilities are well-maintained and they're improving. So that was exciting. I can drink city water again, which is, I love it. But I'd like to say a very special thank you to my three friends, Brenda Whidden, which helped me with support and just encouragement. Penny Rayburn, that was my campaign manager and my treasurer, and kept me going like I was supposed to go. And thank you very much to Artis Hammock, giving me a little nudge so that I am here today. She knows I like a challenge. I am looking forward to work with our commissioners and our city manager and our directors for the betterment of Clewiston. I think most of all, I'm thankful for my family that stands behind me, no matter what path I take or what mountain I decide to climb. They're always there and always behind me. I'm just looking forward to doing the best job possible as city commissioner, and I love our community, and I'm excited that we are growing forward, of which we haven't been able to do in a long time. So I am excited about those new changes and developments. So maybe I believe that we were given this mountain to prove that it can be moved. Thank you, and God bless you.
I am not nearly as prepared as Commissioner Edmonds, but that's okay. I want to thank the community for coming out and voting for me, I guess. I'm grateful that those that did, honestly. I'm happy to still be here. I've been on the commission for roughly a year and a half, something like that. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve the community in that capacity. So thank you. And I will echo Commissioner Edmonds in saying that I'm thankful for my family, my basketball team that we have. And thanks, that's all.
I'd like to thank everybody that came out and supported me and the others also. Glad to get this election behind us, ready to get to work and move forward. City Clerk, is there any comment cards? No public comments?
My name is Jerry Cochran. I got two problems I'd like to address. We've got a problem with people parking in front of storefronts where it says no parking. I saw a lady about get hit on Saturday over at the Save-A-Lot. There was a car illegally parked. A little short lady about 5 feet was walking in front of the car to go to her car. This truck came around the car. Not that he hit her by inches, but it scared the dickens out of her. There are 3 cars there parked illegally. The same happens at Walmart. Not so much. I don't mind people dropping people off and picking them up, but to park there is nonsense. I'd like to see some enforcement done about that before somebody gets badly injured. The second thing is, I think at the September meeting, I asked about people parking motorhomes, fifth wheels, trailers in their front yard on the driveway, which I think is a violation of the city ordinance. Has anything been done about that?
It is a topic for our workshop that we'll be having in the near term to discuss the board's desires with regard to that. I have discussed it with the code enforcement folks, but that's the only report I have tonight. I'll be sharing more with the commission when we have a workshop.
So when will the workshop meeting be?
They're going to discuss the date tonight on the next one.
So in the meantime, we've got a law on the books that we're not enforcing?
Didn't say that. I have discussed it with code enforcement, and they've given me some feedback, and I'll be sharing the results of that with you.
Any tickets been written or anything, or just verbal warnings, or?
Well, it's through code enforcement, we do citations, but I don't know tonight how many or numbers. I couldn't give that off the cuff, but.
Could you get that information for me, please?
Sure.
I'll stop by and pick it up. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief, would you like to respond to that in your comments? The first question, your comments at the end of me, or now?
Tom Lewis, Police Department. In reference to the illegal parking at Save-A-Lot and Walmart, to be honest with you, this is the first I'm hearing of it. I'm not aware of any prior complaints, so now we're aware. I'll definitely make sure our patrol officers are a little bit more cognizant of that. Just thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Any other public comments? Seeing none, I need a motion to accept the consent agenda as given.
I'd like to pull J off there, and we're pulling D, I think.
Yeah, D and J.
Didn't we already vote on the consent agenda?
No. No, just to adopt the agenda
Oh,
as
okay.
amended.
Gotcha.
With those changes, I make a motion.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
No, sir.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Item D on the consent agenda. Can I get a motion to accept that?
I will not be voting on this.
Move that we approve. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Did you want to table?
No,
Commissioner, you
no,
want to
just
table
wanted to
J?
pull it for discussion, and I don't see Danny, I don't know if he's on the line. Oh, there's Danny. You snuck in. Yeah, I had a question, we talked about pumps, I don't know, several weeks ago, of the new sewer pumps being maybe have some kind of grinding capacity. And I noticed in the contract, there's a whole section on pumps, and I didn't want to sign this renewed contract if it wasn't the pumps you wanted to help grind the materials. So I just wanted to make sure you guys have double-checked that. And then the other thing was, do they include any spare pumps in the contract? Okay.
So these will take care of our issues with the wipies. Any other discussion on J?
Move we approve?
Second.
Got a motion to approve, second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Next, we have a resolution 2022-100, recognizing Mayor Christine Peterson. And we'd like to present her with this plaque. Ms. Peterson. Want to go down front?
Yeah, let's go down.
Are we going to stand by her?
Sure, thank you.
I'd like to be in too, if I can.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, really, Greg? No way. I'm standing over here with you guys.
I deal with that
That's way better, yeah.
Get on the outside.
I can really go
I'll
this
go
way
over
with
here.
this.
Let's balance it out a little bit.
All right, that's-
Back up, back up.
Yeah, yeah, climb over.
there we go. All right, yeah, Jimmy, you're in. Okay, there we go. That looks great. Three. Thank you.
Congratulations. Time off.
Okay.
This is Resolution 22-100, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, acknowledging the contributions and accomplishments of outgoing Commissioner and Mayor Christine Peterson. Whereas Christine Peterson began her service to the City of Clewiston as a City Commissioner when she was selected to fill a seat vacated by the resignation of a commissioner in February of 2014. And whereas Christine Peterson ran for office of City Commission in November of 2014 and was elected to a 4-year term and was re-elected to another 4-year term in November of 2018. Whereas Christine Peterson served as vice mayor from December of 2014 through December of 2016 and mayor from December of 2020 through the end of her term in November of 2020. Whereas during her tenure, Christine Peterson served the city of Clewiston with all diligence and selflessness, gave freely and willingly of her time, abilities, and skill, and exhibited the fortitude to make difficult decisions. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, that the City Commission, on behalf of its citizens of Clewiston, does hereby honor and express their appreciation of Christine Peterson for her distinctive and outstanding service, and her unfailingly and unselfish giving of time to the city and its citizens. This resolution and appreciation shall become a permanent record of the city as a tribute to her service.
I'm embarrassed beyond words. That is not me. I give solely the credit to the Christ within. I've always tried to grow and do the right thing, stay in my lane, and try to get to that day when he says, "My child, what did you do?" Well, Father God, what did you do? I'd like to say thank you very much. Wonderful to have these last couple of years that has, we're moving. So many things that you've brought together. You have gone out there and produced a fiduciary responsibility. And I am very, very blessed to work not only with the commission, but with you. Very, very hard. Some heat from us from time to time, and you do it just very graciously. You are keen about what you do, you are focused, and your main focus is the city of Clewiston. And I appreciate it, and I'm very glad that you chose it. Thank you very much. Good luck to all of you. I will be praying for you, and that's all you need to hear from Christine Peterson, citizen of the
Congratulations.
Thank you.
If y'all want to make your comments now or at the podium.
Well, if everybody here, I'm sure knows Christine.
Agreed.
My family dynamics have changed in the last year and a half. 35 years in public service. I was a single parent in Clewiston, whatever my daughter and my granddaughter are moving forward, whatever came my way. Heart, and if you need anything, please, I'm more than willing to help you.
I want to say thank you for your service. When I think of you, it's courage, professionalism, honor, the things that you bring to the table and always have since I've known you. What you do, not only what you've done here for the city, but for the community. Group and those young people that you literally raise to be like you. Honor, courage, professional. So, and I know you'll continue with that. Thank you so much, Christine Peterson. I know you're going to enjoy being a citizen at large.
All of you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let them fix it. I've already called them.
We have the first reading of ordinance 2022-11. I'll read it by title. The ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, amending the Clewiston Code of Ordinances, Chapter 102, Site Design and Improvement Standards, Article 2, All Street Parking and Loading Regulations, creating Section 102.43, Connectivity, providing for codification, providing for severability, providing for repeal of laws in conflict, providing for an effective date. Everybody had a chance to take a look at this.
Yeah, I looked at it. I have a few questions. Want to motion it first for discussion, or?
Yeah, let's move it.
So moved.
I'll make a motion. Did you?
Yeah.
Okay, second.
I don't know, Travis, if it's spearheading this ordinance, or?
Yeah.
I just had a couple.
Yeah, I'd suggest that Travis come up and he can share with you the recommendation of planning and zoning. Just a brief intro. This came up a couple of times during our quarter analysis we were doing with FDOT. Questions were raised about it, and then during our preparation of the ordinance for 27 quarter, it came up again, and we've had a couple of potential plans that are being discussed with the city that would be impacted by this. So we wanted to get it on your radar to consider so that we can give guidance to those future developers. And with that intro, Travis, if you'd comment on it. And I know he has an example that he could discuss with you on how this would apply.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Travis Reese, Community Development. As the ordinance states, Section 102 is our traffic circulation driveway ordinance. This is just an addition to that ordinance, and it will require that commercial businesses connect their public parking lots. Those parking lots, what we're trying to encourage here is the public, whether they're pedestrian, bicycle, or automotive, that they don't have to exit back onto the public street to get back into an adjacent parking lot. It makes it a much cleaner traffic circulation pattern, we feel. We did leave an example on the back. It's not part of the ordinance, but it's stapled to it so you can see. And it shows an area to the west. That's more of a new area, so it's a great example of how you could have connectivity if we had had this ordinance in place. What you'll see there, if you go to that back page, you'll see that there's a hotel that you have a public street in between. You can drive to Burger King. But if you get in the Burger King parking lot, you can't get back to the Dollar Tree without going back out on US 27, coming back in, or exiting to the street to the south. And the same with the bank parking lot. There's no way to go from one to the other, so you would have to go around. If you were doing business at the bank, you couldn't simply go to the Dollar Tree parking lot. So the way the ordinance is crafted, it would require it, but there is a little bit of technical feasibility. We know there's some areas in our infill areas where businesses will be torn down and rebuilt that won't have a need for it, or will just be incompatible, or the area is so small it won't require it. So there is a mechanism in there.
Who makes that call?
That'd be the Technical Review Committee. So we would make the decision whether, if this ordinance is approved the way it is now, it has language in there where we can draft policies and when we would and wouldn't require that connection if certain conditions were met. That keeps it from coming back to planning and zoning and coming back to here.
Is this going to require a lane between the two properties, or are they just going to be cutting across?
It would just be cutting across. It would be keeping,
That don't create a
realize
hazard?
it would open those parking lots up so you could cut in between them.
That don't create a hazard?
No, if it did create a hazard, then we'd recommend it not be done. So it puts another tool in our toolbox in section 102 that says we can make those connectivities when feasible. So the ordinance would require it, and most time we can. We can make those connections.
It's just for new construction?
Is for new construction, right. This would not be retroactive or go back to affect any existing business. That is not what it's there for. And like I said, there's language in there.
Unless they redevelop.
Right, that would be the new building. So if you redeveloped it, there's no catch-all in here. Like you have some of your parking, if you expand more than 10% would require it. That language is not in here. It's not specifically spelled out in here that we would require that. Because we're not trying to capture that. Most of your infill area already has an alleyway to joins the property on both North and South 27. So for the most part, that takes care of it in those older areas. What we're talking about is the newer areas, the newer developments. But it could. It could come into play there. That's why we felt it was important to have language in the ordinance that allows the Technical Review Committee to address it through policies and procedures as they look at each individual site.
On these green spaces between the properties, are there any utilities ran through there? Will it cause an extra cost if we have to work on utilities?
There's a possibility. Utilities typically on commercial lots don't have easements on either side. They typically are served from the public way, from the back or the front. But it could. I mean, there could be increased costs to the developer if they have to do this. But the cost of when you're developing the entire parking lot is minimal. I think it's worthwhile to have on the books to do this.
The end goal of this, Travis, correct me if I'm wrong, is as development continues to, as things continue to grow and development, let's say, pushes out on 27, we can maybe solve incoming and outgoing traffic on Highway 27 with one red light instead of 19 different roads coming into Highway 27.
And all that is more a larger view than this. But yes,
But isn't that the end
idea is
game?
to take traffic circulation. We want to keep people off of the major highways
Yes.
when possible. And when you have developments, as Mr. Martin alluded to, you have certain developments that are planned communities. We want those connections. So even pedestrian or bicycle travel can get to other areas without going all the way out to US 27, taking a red light, going down to another street to enter, when it would be very simple to have an ordinance in place that requires it, but not so rigid that it doesn't have some flexibility in the plan. So, and we'd like to come back with other ideas in that section 102. So this is just the first. There's other sidewalk requirements that we would like to put in that are a little more robust than what we have now.
I think this picture is probably the best example in town so far.
Yeah, it's one where if you drive in there, now that I've mentioned it publicly, when you drive in, you'll think about that. You're right, I can't get over there. Now, it's in this area, you can go to the south and get around it, so it's not as bad, but that's what we're trying to avoid. When it's technically feasible, it can be done, that we're going to encourage it, and with the ordinance, have it in place that you will make those connectivities.
I mean, it could impact parking. I know that down next to John Perry Insurance, there's a new building that went in. And of course, because they own the property, they of course connected the parking lots. But because of the way the building's built, if there was another lot to the west of there, there would be no way to connect that parking lot unless you made the developer change the size of the building or something of that nature, which I personally wouldn't be for. I mean, I buy this property, it's my property. If I want a parking lot where I want it, and I don't want you to tell me where I have to put a driveway, on one hand. On the other hand, I do see, because I've been to many cities and wished I could have gotten from where I was right there, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I understand the reasoning for it, but I just want to make sure we maintain the flexibility of the owner of the property, because typically buildings are only built one at a time, at least in Clewiston. So if I build my building a certain way, it could prohibit that from even happening. I mean, so.
That would be a possibility, but to say that your section 102 already, and you alluded to this, it already tells that private property owners, when you're developing for the public, our ordinances are going to give you a traffic, you're going to develop a traffic safety plan that meets our ordinance and is a safe way for people to move in and out. And you heard tonight with public comments, even with the best intentions, you're still going to have people park in certain places where they shouldn't. So to answer more directly your question is, it could, as you're developing, the TRC is going to look at that and say, how could you have connected to the west? How could that be connected? They may have to leave some space. If they didn't have the space to leave, the policies within there, then it could be technically infeasible. We don't want to stop the building on the property. I mean, we want the properties to develop the same as you. We want them to develop. We just want them to develop safely and in compliance with ordinances, with the caveat that if you can show it's technically feasible, if you need this space and there's no one currently there, we would have that leadway to say, okay, on this particular one, there would only be one parking lot that didn't connect hypothetically in that situation. We could address it at each building. But for the most part, I think they could have left space to connect the parking lot.
Well, being that there's no setback in commercial still, I'm assuming that's still the case.
That is correct. Except for your 27 quarter, there's some very small setbacks.
Maybe in this ordinance, we could add a note or something in there that would require a setback to make this happen. Maybe towards the back of the property. I mean, I know you can't get too specific because there's so many different scenarios, but.
I think this is the least, it gets us what we're looking at. If we need to come back and address it later, if we see it causing a problem with development, we would certainly bring it back to you and say, okay, we need to do something different. But as it is right now, I think it's something that would be beneficial, especially as we grow along US 27. We're really just trying to keep folks from having to go back out on 27 to come back in.
So Travis, this is a goal for development headed west of town. I mean, I know maybe redevelopment on the east side, but there's also Main Street corridor ordinances that they would have to follow there on that one. And because that only goes to, was it Lopez or Olympia?
Yeah, I go Lopez.
Okay, so should this ordinance be limited to Highway 27?
We could.
The example that Commissioner Pittman used is a back off the street where there's two streets on either side of those properties. I'm just wondering if this is for a highway for future development headed west of town, should we just have it for Highway 27 because some of these other lots are smaller and they've got frontage roads or roads on both sides of these lots?
Right, and the ordinance does say if you have a public, if you're divided by a public road, you wouldn't be required a secondary. If you notice the the hotel in the back picture, you'll see that they wouldn't need it. They already have it. But I wouldn't object to that. I think the TRC would agree that the intent is for safety to keep the traveling public within those commercial parking lots. Along US 27 by far is the most important. Does it mean, WC Owens or back in other areas, maybe along Francisco, not as important.
As written, do we have enough flexibility in it that we could avoid that?
I think we do, as it's written, because the TRC or Technical Review Committee will go back and have policies and procedures that we will adopt that would help guide development to give, of course, still, the ordinance is there, but we would be able to guide them and say, okay, it's not required here because of X, or build it this way, or it's smaller, or maybe you just put a pedestrian path in instead of a complete automotive path. Extend your sidewalk this way. So we want to have a flexibility there. So we want something robust. We want the ordinance in place and allow us to have procedures to where we could do that. And it doesn't have to come back to planning and zoning and commission each time someone wants to maybe tweak something in this connectivity.
So since this is a first reading, could y'all look at it again, Randy, with the comments that are made? And then second reading, Dylan, there might be some suggestions that we can look at.
Oh, absolutely. That's what it's here for. The first reading is that. We want to hear input back from the commission. You tell us what you think. We'll amend the ordinance and bring it back on a second reading with those amendments, if that's what your wishes are.
Because, as pointed out, it goes beyond just vehicles. In some cases, we have a lot of folks that ride golf carts on most of our off of the highway streets, and they would be able to do interconnectivity without having to go to one street or the other. So there's some clear advantages, but there are instances that will be unique. Obviously, the intent's not to make someone be able to not develop their property, because you may have it adjacent to a ditch or misleveled lots that just doesn't work out from an engineering perspective. So I think the key is just having it, as Travis pointed out, a tool that we can use when it makes sense and is in the best interest of the public, the customers, even if those two property owners may be in a competing interest and one doesn't want the other one to have access. That's really where it would be a useful tool to the city, so that we can make that judgment rather than that property owner who might have another motivation. I've run into that in other communities. This is a pretty common requirement in the communities I've worked with, that we had this flexibility, but we would have it to where, for whatever reason, a particular business didn't want the next door business to access through theirs. And it was clearly to keep them off the highway, because that's a real safety issue if you've done it, and as Commissioner pointed out, and about everybody has, where you're forced to go back out on the main highway, particularly out of town folks that are going from restaurant to hotel or from retail to a restaurant. It's really not a safe situation to force them to get on Highway 27 to go back, because sometimes that would require them to go down and come back on the opposite side and go past it and come in. If you can visualize that, where the divided highway is, it really is inconvenient then. If you're going in the opposite direction of those lanes adjacent to you, you got to go around the block to get back to that other business, and you may decide just not to go. So I think from a fairness to all businesses, particularly as we grow, and really it'll come into play with larger tracks that do not have front and rear street access, like Travis pointed out. You know, if you look at the western lots, the Walmarts and places like that, clearly if you're going to have commercial going further west, there's a lot of validity to have them connected internally.
And that's a good point about the large tracks. The mobile station at the corner of Burner Road and US 27, they voluntarily connected with Walmart.
Yeah.
Walmart was the original, they sold that out parcel. Imagine that lot not having the access to the Walmart parking lot.
Yeah, if that hadn't been a cooperative situation, for example, if that had been an existing business and they didn't work together, that wouldn't have been a real disaster.
Yeah, that lot
It would have greatly hurt their business.
70% of its traffic, because you could get in and out, that would be very difficult.
Or
So that's the
McDonald's,
idea.
same thing with McDonald's, but again, they're on the
Exactly.
highway, yeah.
Another good
And it does change ownership. That's an interesting one. We had changed ownership there when that owner wanted to did rebuild. But it was negotiation. The city really had no influence over that, other than just trying to be a mediator between the existing property owners. And they worked it out. But it would have been nice to have an interconnectivity ordinance at that time.
So just as a scenario that could happen, west of Walmart, somebody builds right next to Walmart. Will this ordinance force Walmart to put in, or allow the new owner to put in a driveway between?
That's exactly what it would require, depending on the use. If the use was commercial or mixed use, and it was a commercial type parking lot, then the new developer would be required to connect with the existing parking lot.
And obviously, it only makes good sense that you'd work cooperatively with the existing business, because some places wouldn't make much sense to locate it. Others would be preferable. So I would assume in a case like that, you'd want to connect the parking lots, not behind the building or, that kind of example. That's a good one, because, they have drivability all the way around that building, but it wouldn't make sense to do it in certain locations there. And in other places, you might have other reasons that you wouldn't want it there. And that's why we felt like the Technical Review Committee with the engineer there would be the appropriate place to look at those things from an apolitical, just purely engineering and design and what is in the best interest of the driving public, if you will, and those businesses and their considerations.
Any other discussion? All in favor of Resolution 2022-11, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Thank you.
And as pointed out for the audience, that would come back at your December meeting for consideration, public hearing, and consideration of final action.
Next is Resolution number 2022-103. A resolution of the City Commission of the City of Clewiston, Florida, approving a service contract with Electric Power Systems for distribution substation maintenance for repairs to the 138 kV McGraw-Edison spare transformer. I'll add the financial impact is $85,208.77. And before we move on this, I'd like to ask Danny to come up and explain the need and the purpose of this work.
Yeah, I think he's going to make a comment. And then, yeah, he's going to, if you want to introduce it first, and then Lynn will have some
Not
comments.
so much for our benefit, but the
No.
community.
But
It's a lot of money.
She's been working with the project, so I asked her today if she would come up and talk to Lynn Mila, everyone for the audience, is Assistant Utility Director, and she's been kind of head spearheading this project. It is a third transformer that we do want to put online. It's been there quite some time, so we're going to service it. So we did a little work to it last year, and I'll let her go through explaining what we're doing this year.
And of course, Lynn is our representative, lead representative to the board of FMPA. So we appreciate her service in that role.
That's nice. I am not an electrician or a contractor, so I'll tell you why we think there's a need for this work. This spare transformer was rebuilt back in 2004 or 5, I think. Probably some of you remember. And so it's been sitting probably in the spot where it will be put into service at one day when we start to build out west of town. But I listened to Mike Cox, and he goes out to the substation. He says, "Hey, there's a leak from one of the gaskets in that transformer, and we need to have it checked out." So we've had EPS do maintenance work there at the substation before, and we get competitive pricing through a FMPA contract. So we've got their rates for this contract. And we had multiple calls with one of the engineers there, Jose Bravo and Cairo Venegas, EPS, and talked about the need and what needs to be done out there. And while they're on site, we're going to also have the batteries maintained and a switch looked at, some bearings fixed to take advantage of the deployment while they're there.
Automatic switch?
No, it's manual. Yeah. Actually, there is a motor on it, but it's catching, and they can't even crank it all the way up manually now, and it's a switch that has to be opened when sugar does work there, so we can't, we need to have it operational.
Nothing to do with high voltage, it's cheap.
No, it's not, and the majority of this cost is draining out the oil, and because we're draining it out, because the gasket unfortunately is in a position where it all has to be drained out, they're going to reprocess the oil before they put it back in. And the idea is also, while they're doing that, there's going to be some pre-testing done. And we're going to have somebody from FMPA come down and be on site when they do that pre-testing, so that they can, if there's any judgments that have to be made about, the next steps, they can make it with the engineer on site and the contractor there. And the goal is to get it serviceable, in service ready for, when we need to use it, because it has been sitting there. It's not been energized since it's been rebuilt.
So once we finish this work, it'll be safe and reliable.
Yes, that's definitely the goal, because it's a very expensive asset, and we're very, we're in a great situation to have a third transformer there that hopefully we can use.
That's the one that's been sitting there for a long, long, long time, if I remember.
Yeah, since...
And it was taken offline because it failed years and years and years ago. And the city runs off 2 transformers. And back in the day, if one failed, this one transformer could handle the city, but that's not the case anymore.
One transformer can handle.
You still can?
Yes.
Okay.
But as future growth occurs, that
what
dynamic
we're
could
looking at.
change, yeah.
Talk like you're an electrician or something.
I just remember how much it cost to get the used second transformer shipped in on the rail car. And if we had to buy a new one today, it would be well over $1 million.
And you wouldn't get it.
If you bought a used one, it would probably be well over $750,000.
And if you wait till the oil leaks out, it'll blow if you put it on high.
So
That's kind of why we're doing what we're doing. I mean, is to get this third one so we can take them offline. I mean, like I say, we can run the city on one transformer still. It would be nice to know if we do expand this growth. I was talking to Mr. Martin the other day, even the north side or the west side, if they annex, I'd like to create, maybe start another substation so we can feed the north side or whatever, or be able to swap if we have to go offline here. We're looking into that, so.
So this is more than just maintenance. This is, the way I see it, is an investment in the future.
Yes, this is what.
If we want to expand, it's already done.
Yeah, recapture an asset that's floundering right now that at some point may not be fixable if we don't.
As you well know, things don't happen fast. And I've learned that quick here. And this is something, we need to start now, just like the water plant Barbara heard, we've got where we can expand. So we're kind of there. I mean, we're way ahead of the game, but we still got the process because it takes forever. It's not quick.
For many years, we wasn't ahead of the game, and we've been working
Yeah,
hard.
and so that's what we are. We're putting ourselves there. And that's this. It's and it wait, of course, but do we want to wait? No.
The development's not waiting on us.
No, if it takes off, there we are. We'll tight. So.
Anybody want to move this resolution?
So moved.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Mr. Manager, do you have any
Yes, sir.
comments?
With regard to our legislative priorities, it's again time to put together our request for the legislature for funding in the upcoming session that'll be starting early in '23. In preparation for that, they are holding a listening session where they're going to accept requests. I won't read it all, but I've given you a detailed background on our history of it. We've been asking for funding from the legislature primarily for our utility upgrades for several years now. We've been very successful. We got the bridge funding, which was a great asset to the city through the legislative appropriation process. We got water funding for water main improvements to improve fire protection and capabilities on the west end of town towards Everglades. And we've received through the state DEP, as I report in here, several $1 million in low interest, no interest loan and grant funding to upgrade our collection and treatment system. You just modified the agreement tonight on the pumps related to that. So we're in the midst of all of that, and we're trying to expand and grow and utilize the existing plant to maximize our flow, but all of the progress and improvements we've received funding for from the legislature, the one lacking is funding for our wastewater treatment plant upgrade and expansion to be able to manage and our wastewater flows and treat them to the modern standards in most environmentally acceptable manner, and also to prepare us for future growth. Again, just like the discussion we just had of trying to get ahead of that, we've been applying for different resources through the state and federal government for a number of years now. We did get a recommendation from our Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, who will no longer be our congressman next year based on redistricting, but in a gracious move, he did recommend $3 million for this effort There would be a phase of our plant improvements in the congressional budget that'll hopefully be acted upon before and finalized in the coming weeks before the transition to the new Congress in January. The additional $11 million means we need a total of $14 million to accomplish our goals and create an affluent of wastewater to be treated so well it can be used for irrigation purposes at our golf course and at our parks, and even in future development, it could be incorporated in for non-potable uses for the development, such as fire protection lines and things of that nature. The recommendation tonight is to put forward this as our number one priority. As I noted in the documentation, our county commissioners agreed to support our request as a priority for the county, and the EDC, our Economic Development Council Board of Directors, endorsed it as a top priority in their legislative ask. So I would ask that the commission make it our top priority ask for this upcoming session. I think it started officially in March, but they're wanting these requests in much earlier than that. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but that's the report you've received.
Randy, you mentioned that Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart will no longer represent or be our representative. And we certainly would like to thank him for, helping us get seed money, so to speak, to get this project started. So I'm hoping that we have an opportunity to thank him, formally from the city.
Once that action is formalized, I would recommend that we have some sort of ceremony here to invite him and recognize that contribution, because that is significant and will allow us to do some elements of the project. And of course, we've already had interactions with our new representative, Scott Franklin, his staff. We haven't met with him yet, but we met with his staff. And my goal would be if we don't get 100% funding from the legislature, that we consider an additional request back to our new congressman for the next Congress for any gaps we may have in any of these infrastructure needs. And yet I'm hopeful, very hopeful, that our legislative delegation will come through for most, if not all, of the funding that we need this coming calendar year. And that meeting will be held here on the 5th at, I forgot what time it is. I think it's at 1 o'clock, the legislative hearing at which these requests will be submitted informally.
On December 5th?
Yes, ma'am.
And it is here in Clewiston?
Yes, we're hosting it this year, and I'll double check, but I believe it starts at 1 o'clock.
And since you mentioned Congressman Franklin, I have no doubt that he will carry the torch for us, if need be, on these infrastructure projects.
It does begin at 1 o'clock here in this room. Agencies from all over the county will be making requests, all over this region, really.
Do we need a motion to?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll make a motion that the city of Clewiston formally authorize submittal of this $11 million request as Clewiston's priority for 2023, as outlined in your
Second.
Any discussion?
recommendation.
Second?
I did.
Oh, okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion carries. Any old business?
Number of items. The only thing I would mention is I would recommend, and if the commission members are available that evening at 5, after that legislative hearing ends, would be a suggestion, if nobody's got a major conflict with that, to have our first workshop. One of the things we want to talk about is what we were discussing earlier, master planning on our utilities, updating master plan documents and plans for our utility system to be able to manage growth, of which this piece would be an integral part.
December 5th at 5 p.m.?
That works.
That works for me.
Okay. And of course, we had some other miscellaneous topics that we'll bring up at that same time, if as long as you're willing to stay here.
Any other comments, Randy?
unless you have other comments on old business or the departmental reports, I did want to make a comment under manager's comments at some point. Are we there yet?
Any of the directors have reports? I have a couple questions for Danny if you don't have a report. Update on the flagpole.
Yes.
On the flagpole, yes. Sherry, 800. In the process, we did get a check, what you guys all know, but she's got a call in to purchase the flag.
Have we, and a pole?
And a pole, yes, I'm sorry, flagpole.
I may have a pole, I'll give you later.
Yeah.
The bridge, can you speak about the construction and timeline?
No.
Just get started.
No, they have started, but that's about it.
Roughly a year left.
Yeah,
I guess.
it's about a year. But I am getting with Raymond to, work out schedules, parking for him. We've been discussing, but it's going to take about a year, but they have started.
Any interest on our open position for in-house engineer?
No.
Nope, we're still,
Where all are we advertising that at?
we've done it through the traditional sense, but this year I want to expand that into some of the professional associations and things of that nature.
LinkedIn, Indeed.
Yeah. Of course, downside with that, you get a lot of folks that probably aren't what we're looking for, but the upside is you get some folks. We're not getting much interest in it thus far.
Have we tried to recoup any money from the contractor at the lake for the damage to the road leading to the lake?
You want an update on that? I know.
We just got it videoed. We look, just looking over it, but there's really,
The dip that has a sign?
well, that's been an issue.
It's gotten worse.
It's gotten
It was
worse,
there
but-
prior, but it has worsened. So those are the ones we're focused on is where it's an obvious detriment has occurred.
And then outside of the road, where the picnic tables are
On the
we
north side.
liable for anything that happens there, or is the Corps liable?
Well, I guess it would depend on who's challenging it, but we are leasing that property for a park. And so the city would probably be in first position. And we have, of course, our insurance, but I guess it depends on who it was. They'd probably go after all parties, but we are the primary for.
My history on the lease, the federal government will kick it back to.
Oh, they're going to always do that, yeah.
I have a little experience with that on the other side of the lake.
What concerns do you have?
The basket of rocks, granite that's there.
Yeah.
There's some whole baskets that's missing, and if somebody steps off in it, it's not going to be good. And I think we
That
can
is
fill
our
those-
responsibility.
I think we
We'll
can
look
fill those
into
with
that.
concrete and perhaps save us some trouble.
Sure. Yeah, that's
There's
our
not one or
responsibility.
two, there's several. That's
Okay.
But they, of course,
The granite our responsibility?
Yep. When they signed that lease. Yeah.
but they have to approve whatever we do to fix it. So
Yeah.
we'll have to go through them to make sure it complies with their
Maybe we should
requirements.
ribbon it off, caution tape it if it's really bad.
Well, be sure to let us know where specifically,
Yeah.
then,
and
and I'll
it's
check
not
it out.
something new. It's
Been
Been
there.
there. All right, we'll check it out.
just looking at that the other day, I was thinking, wonder if we're going to be liable for that.
I think they pull the rocks out and throw them out in the river.
They literally have to reach in there and pull them out. It's not something that they just shake.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I think, now that the subject's brought up, I think that we probably should have an inventory of that whole section, because there's probably more than just one. And so if it's our responsibility or the Corps, whoever it is, we need to go ahead and do a survey of that whole stretch.
And their contractors wrapping up activities with the removal of the other temporary crossing west of the new bridge location. So this is timely because I'm getting citizen requests asking about the access to the Lost Trail and so forth. And I know some of you have talked to me and.
So can you give us an update on that?
Yes.
That was one of my questions for you. Thank you.
So just a follow-up comment, so we're not going to get any reimbursement from Treviaco?
We're going to try, yes.
Yeah, we're going to try, but
We're going to show them the video we have.
Kickback. They didn't.
We got a before and after, and we're going to show it to them and try to negotiate improvements in the places that are obviously detrimentally impacted by their activity. Where we'll end up with that, we'll see, but we have some leverage because of their use of the facility. What is that under, which permit they received? What was- Yes.
There's definitely an environmental impact on that lot.
Yeah.
There won't be a blade
So,
of
so
grass
we've got
there.
some leverage with their site that
And I
they've
think that
been
the
using.
Army Corps of Engineers was involved in all these conversations. We need to also ask them to.
Yes, and we, of course, have their support to work
To
with us.
look out for the public interest.
The leverage there is the final sign-off on their work from the Army Corps engineer.
Which is probably months away, but we got time, but that is the leverage. And that's how we were able to get them to pave the entire area rather than just spot patching. That's what they wanted to do, and we utilized our relationship with the Corps to get them to rethink that. So we'll do the same on these issues with our streets.
So the final sign-off will come before the commission.
Well,
The city has to sign it off.
well,
I think that's a core project.
Probably just go to the manager as far as.
now it depends on what we're talking about.
Making a demand, not.
I guess it depends on what we're talking about. Now, for their acceptance of the dike repairs, we don't have a role in that. That's just the Corps.
No, I'm talking about what he just said.
The other streets.
That the city has to sign it off.
Yeah, the
But-
permit that they have for, I've forgotten what that permit was called. Was it a,
They typically, the Corps will walk with us also, and if there's any city facilities are damaged that are not in that construction site, then that'll be addressed as well, but Williams is saying that if we have it on video and we can show it, then we have some leverage
the
there.
permit I was referring to
those
was the
granite
one
blocks were in the
they have
construction
where they're doing their
it's part of it.
concrete plant.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, the concrete plant's
I
the
could've
one
swore
we
those-
definitely
those
have
baskets were
the
full before the
ability as a
construction.
city to sign off on that, so, that whether they've met their requirements or not. Certainly, we're
So
going
I'll
to,
ask my question again. So it will come before the city
that
commission
will,
before it's
yes.
signed off.
That will, yes.
And anything else that has to be signed off concerning Treviaco.
Yeah.
Not any other business.
Sure.
Because, and the reason I'm hammering this is because Commissioner McGahee hammered this and hammered it and said, do we have anything in writing? And nope, 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 nope. And here we are at the end of the project, and I bet you we wish we had something in writing.
Well, we do have the permit that was issued for them to operate in their plant, and that
I'm
we did
talking more
get
about
in.
our streets, but
video.
yeah, that too is very important.
Yeah, the highway, the Corps' contract, of course, that is a federal contract, and it's very detailed, so we're going to milk that as far as we can carry it to require them, because they have contingencies, they have a budget, and to
They have to
take care
close
of it.
out everything, all.
Well, that's the way they did on the dike work, and so the rest of their project is a bigger project, obviously, but the concrete and the activity that was done in Clewiston was on the whole project that Treviacos did, not just the dike in the city. So that had an impact. It had an impact out in the county. It had in the city, as you well know.
So is the new bridge going to have the same impact on our roads that we need to have the same?
Yes, that's why we videoed.
Now that we have
Had
a
a video
direct,
before they
and we
started.
have a direct contract with that contractor, and so that's a little easier to manage.
Speaking of our roads, I think it's important we act as soon as possible to put, about development and moving forward, is to put a 10-year plan together on road resurfacing. We got a lot of this ARPA money. I don't believe we're spending any of it on roads, and we need to get on it now. The roads we currently have, some of them are really bad shape, and some of it's because regular traffic, and a lot of it, I believe, is because of commercial traffic is going up and down it. Ongoing. And I know the police department's been working hard to put a stop to some of that, but we got to get on it soon and have a 10-year plan in place. And maybe near future, we can have a workshop where we can discuss that, and maybe with the help of Public Works, discuss what roads has the biggest need
Isn't there already a plan? I mean,
Well,
it
we've
might-
got our CIP, but I think this is go beyond that. That's similar to what we're talking about doing at this master plan on utilities for the development and so forth. But we have the 10-year, but the engineer also is trying to make those more realistic because some of the cost estimates in that are very outdated and undervalued.
And there is funding out there for specifically for
drainage.
resurfacing of roads.
Yeah, and drainage also because of all, you'll see a report at our session they've already done on the pipes that go under our streets and that are so out of date.
Culverts.
Yeah, the culverts, they've done a count, done an estimate, a condition assessment. You'll get all of that at this first workshop.
We're trying to get those funds. That's going to be part of the drainage that I'm trying to get now. We're trying to get grant funds to redo our drainage throughout the system. And of course, Alvarez will be, Joe has put a package together, the cost to do all the culverts. They're in pretty bad shape. The bottoms are gone, I'll tell you that.
But if we don't have a plan, sometimes funding gets.
Well, there is a plan. We've got it drawn out. I mean, we know what it costs. It's going to be about four something million, a little over 4 million.
For resurfacing and the drainage.
Redoing all the culvert crossings.
No, resurfacing's bigger than that.
Yeah.
For all of
So, I
them.
mean, we're putting that together.
So that's my biggest point is resurfacing.
Yep.
And we got a little bit of funds, patching right now, but we do have some funds for resurfacing
And,
this year.
and while we're talking streets, we unfortunately, as I reported to commission, did not get approved for the SCOP funding from DOT for the North Francisco section. In this most recent awards they just did, they only did 3 communities. I think the nearest one to us was Moorhaven, received some funding. But we have already put them on notice and asked the engineer to reapply for those funds as our top priority, because that street is growing rapidly, needing more and more, just like we're just talking about some of the conditions. And with the bridge, when it's complete, it really needs to be done. And so we hope we'll be approved in the next cycle, but we're going to keep after it till we get funded.
But there's already some funding for that roadway.
Yeah, we've got a
for
little
North
bit of money. We've got
Francisco.
$500,000. I think Commissioner Pittman had suggested. Unfortunately, we got funded for that, and that money will help us do some things, but that obviously won't touch the resurfacing and the base improvements that are needed to that street. We thought that would get it for us this year so we could do it all at once, but we're going ahead with the $500,000 appropriation from the legislature, planning and designing that, but we'll have to just reapply for the street resurfacing.
I will look and see if there's some sort of agreement with Trevico. Try to find out.
And we'll get
I
a
wasn't part
copy of
it
what the
then,
Corps has too and see
Yeah.
what theirs
Yeah.
speaks to it.
I'll get with
I
Paul.
haven't seen that, so.
I know Glaze County got their road fixed.
And it was bad.
but trucks are still going.
Yeah, they're still tearing it up while they're fixing it. But it was bad.
Had a chunk about that big, about to take my car out.
The road was bad.
It was like being on a roller coaster,
Yeah.
literally.
You have anything else now?
I'm good.
He is working on pricing for the pool upgrade, and we've got one. We're trying to get 2 more.
Yeah, I've talked to 2 more companies. I'm waiting on some bids to come back. Kind of excited. It doesn't seem like it's going to be that bad. I mean, these guys walk out there saying, that's not that bad. We'll take care of it. But getting them here is the thing.
Yeah.
But I'm waiting on 2 more companies. But one has given me a quote. If they don't
I didn't think
hear
it could-
shortly, I'm going to just go with the one and I'll write
Couldn't have
something
been
up.
too bad. That thing's like a tank. It's solid.
Yeah, they thought it was above. They thought there was something underneath, but it's sitting down. It's solid. People were worried it was cracking. That's not the case. So we're in pretty good shape. It's not
The
that bad.
filtration of the water recovered from the splash pad, that's going to be a huge savings.
Yes.
And we're getting it ready for this next year.
That's the goal, yes.
Goal.
And our partner, U.S. Sugar's agreed to pay half the cost. And
Yep.
so we'll come to you for the approval of it once we get those bids.
Great news.
Thanks, Danny.
There's a lot more, but
Plenty to do.
Chief, will you come talk about the shop with a cop, please? Let everybody know if they want to donate, where and how.
So we're doing our annual Shop with a Cop event. We again partnered with Walmart here in Clewiston. The date is going to be December the 10th. You can actually visit our Facebook page. We have a lot of information on there. But if you'd like to donate, we spend about $100 per kid. So if you'd like to donate or sponsor a child, you can come down to the police department and donate there. Or you can give it to me directly. I certainly like cash. But other than that, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. We're December the 10th. That's the date.
And what time? Is it?
You would put me on the spot. I don't remember, to be honest with you, off the top of my head.
And donations are accepted all the way up until that date?
Yes, they are. Yep.
We'll send it out.
Okay, yeah, that'd be
Do a
great.
press
I'm sure it's on your
release.
Facebook page. We can look
It
at
is
it.
currently, we just actually announced it today. We secured the date with Walmart, so we'll be getting it out via email as well.
Yeah, and I didn't let you know, but there was a semi in the middle, a street in the middle of town, hood up, been there for hours working on it, blocking traffic. I called the police department, they had somebody there within 5 minutes.
Good. Response time is definitely the quality that we want.
And I think the important thing is just another reminder. I know, Jerry, you talked about, people not parking right. The best thing to do is, just call.
Yeah, call the
all
police right away.
call And they respond.
Yes, not a lot we can do, if we find out a week later,
Yeah.
for sure. Thank you very much.
It's gotten a lot worse, too, since there's a lot of contractors through town, and
So I'm hoping it dissipates. I do know that we've had a problem with a bigger company that was staying at the Clewiston Inn. I went over there, talked to the owner, and they were moving, they said 600 people out into Fort Myers. They were supposed to be going by the end of today. So I'm hoping that took care of itself. I plan on following up on that tomorrow, but I'm hoping as the work gets done, we'll see less and less of that. But
So truck traffic's calmed down a bit.
a little bit. There's still,
The tow truck drivers go pretty fast.
yes, they do. Yeah, they're not really law-abiding traffic people.
They get
That's
paid
for
by
sure.
the load. They're trying to get through.
Yeah, for sure.
we pay
Thank
for
you.
that bathroom remodel, stroke a few tickets.
Yes, yeah, we'd like to pay for that, that's for sure. What he's alluding to, we're actually in the middle of remodeling the bathroom or the kitchen at the police department, so if you get a chance to stop
After which we
by.
hope to have an open house. We've been talking about one for a while, so
Yes, we have.
we got to invite Julio back. He wanted to go to that, so we didn't get it done in time.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other reports? City Attorney, you have anything?
I've got nothing other than to welcome our new member, our returning members, and to wish everyone a happy Thanksgiving.
Dylan.
Commissioner comments? Go first with Commissioner Edwards.
Good, I just want to wish everybody happy Thanksgiving and looking forward to work with my fellow commissioners.
Commissioner Pittman?
Yeah, we brought up, keeping traffic off 27 with the parking lots being joined together. But on the other hand, we're putting traffic on 27 with all the stop signs on Ventura. Can I get a yoo-hoo or something out of that? We went from 0 to 3 now, just from on the east side of Ventura. I'm proposing that we at least do a study. I'm not going to make a motion to remove them, but I would like us to at least study the road as a collector road or a main traffic road. I've almost gotten hit twice, and I know people are getting used to the new stop signs. And I thought when you put a new traffic pattern up, you had to do an MOT and put flashing lights or oversized stop signs or something. Anyway, I would like us to look, I don't know what you guys think about it. Maybe you don't travel over there as much as I do, but to me, it's a very big hindrance. And I know some people say, well, it slows traffic down. Well, so does a policeman, or there's other traffic means to slow traffic down.
Wasn't that a DOT project? DOT approved that project, so they would have looked at the traffic mobility of it. Is that correct?
It was funded with DOT funds, SCOP funds, and they reviewed the plans and had to approve them. Whether they took a position on that particular thing or not, I do not know. I do know that the process, when Commissioner Pittman inquired of me of this, I did some research that this was not discussed during my tenure. It was actually a decision made prior to that, following the current city code. And the engineer and public works director at the time, it preceded Danny's role in that regard. This was the outcome, and I was surprised, I'll be frank, when I saw them being put in. The contractors just finished the project. We wanted to allow them to finish it. And I, of course, have had brief conversation with members of the commission, but I have no problem with doing an in-house analysis, and then if we need some additional, and look at any other improvements that might need to be made. But we have had positive about it, and I'll be frank, very minimal negative, but I'm sure there's some out there that I haven't heard. But we've had a little bit of both. But I can certainly get input from the emergency departments and planning and utilities and public works and everybody internally, and we can run it through our technical review committee and report back to the commission, and y'all can
I also
discuss
think
it.
we need to talk to the people who live on Ventura.
Yeah,
because the biggest complaints I got was it was a speedway when we didn't have the stop signs. And I can tell you, if you're going to look at roads, I'd like for you to look at Aztec as well. I was traveling from the Rotary Club meeting on San Luis towards Olympia, and I was going the speed limit, and I had somebody pass me
On Aztec.
on Aztec. So I think if we're going to look at Ventura, I think we need to look at Aztec. Sorry,
That was you.
that was me. So I think that we look at it, but also I think we need to have the public input, because I've heard, of people going too fast on Ventura and also on Aztec from the people that live in those neighborhoods, which is a little different than Highway 27 because it's commercial most of the time. And yes, we have people going way too fast. And I know that I've seen the officers out. I've seen the sheriff's department actually on the east end of town as well as the west end of town. And I think that's beneficial for Highway 27 because it's slowing it down. But I love the stop sign at San Gabriel, because to me that's an intersection that people get going from Francisco towards Ventura, and they're going pretty fast. And so I don't know how many four-way stops we need, but I know Ventura and San Benito and San Gabriel I think are very important, especially since they're going into a recreational area. I'm not an expert. I don't know. I just know that the DOT looked at those plans and they funded it. So. But if you're looking at Ventura, you please look at Aztec as well, because I have some concerns with how fast people are going down that road.
One of the motivating factors were where street sidewalks cross and crosswalks. I know at least at one or two of those intersections coming from the park and other places were one of the factors that were considered in looking back at the research of what I found. But we'll be glad to do an analysis and then bring it back to you at a workshop or however you want to do it, and y'all can give us further guidance on whether it needs to be modified or you want to keep it the way it is or somewhere in between. So.
Well, I know the plans were done prior to a lot of people sitting up here and yourself, so I'm not saying anyone did anything wrong. I'm just.
It's not that we can't fix it.
No, we can fix it. They were removed for a reason back in the day.
Yeah, and I don't know the history of that, but.
That reason was to try to get more people to use the road. So it is something to look at. It's not a game changer if it happens or doesn't happen, but the more stop signs, it just slows things down. People are speeding, then give them a ticket.
But I think it's important, Jimmy. I know with emergency management, they want to get to places quickly. But when I've traveled LaBelle and even in Harlem, they've got speed bumps on a lot of their roads. And I'm like, I'd rather see a stop sign than a speed bump. I mean, these are humps, speed humps. Yeah. And so I just don't know how those are bad for, emergency management. So I'm glad that you guys are going to look at it, but I certainly would prefer a stop sign, a four-way stop sign, than a big speed hump in our roadways.
We've got one in town. It's going to the golf course. Railroad track.
Yeah, the railroad track creates one there. All right, well, we'll do some in-house analysis, bring you back what the thoughts, and I've discussed it with some of the department heads, but we'll try to formalize it and seek any other resources we need to, as requested, and we'll look at both. I will say that in looking at it, and I don't want to rehash it too much tonight, but the discussion I heard was that when the hospital was put in the center, that changed the dynamic dramatically, I guess, whenever that was done for Ventura, and its ability to be obviously an east to west thoroughfare or minor thoroughfare or secondary road was diminished. Aztec, on the other hand, has the full length, but obviously enforcement is always a tool, and speed limits and four-way stops and whatever other tools you want to look at. But we'll bring it back to you and get more feedback from the commission. I have discussed with the engineer alternatives, and there are some advanced warning signs and things you can do when there's a crosswalk without a stop sign. But I think if they erred on the side of safety, and that was what brought it. I will say this, once that street was repaved, we didn't have a problem with anybody speeding before we paved it again. But since then, that was a real issue, particularly before the markings came in. People were really getting it down through there, and I know the PD had some issues with that. But the resident feedback, that's what we heard. I haven't heard from all of them, haven't talked to all of them. But in the residential area, I think you get a different dynamic. When you get into the commercial part of Ventura, where it's wider, it's a different dynamic. And of course, we're going to be doing that this year, doing analysis of this section of Ventura that goes by City Hall from Dean Duff over to WCO, and a complete redesign of that area with the mix of traffic with pedestrians, bicycles, and cars and all the other things that go along with it, and whether you consider golf carts in that section or not or whatever, as a way to redesign this with the funding we receive through the legislature and the Congress, through Congress and through DOT, to redo this section and resurface it. We have that money, and that's going to be a high priority for the next year to get that finalized and get it out to bid so that we can get this section of Ventura long before it ends up like the last section did in disrepair. I'll stop.
Do anything else, Jim?
No, just our workshop in December. What's the main focus going to be?
Well, one of is the master planning for the utilities, and the thing we just talked about with regard to the storm drainage. Those are the main reasons for that one that are relatively new. We've got 2 or 3 others that are on this list that y'all been wanting to talk about, the shutters and storm shutters and anything that's outdated. Those would be the primary focus for this one. And the item that came up tonight, I'll try to report on that, the parking thing that was brought up. Y'all can give me some guidance on that.
And then, Randy, are we going to try to have, I know, in January, another meeting, another workshop?
Yes.
I think because we've been so busy with some of the
January,
things.
we've got some topics that are going to be coming up there as well, and one of them may be the streets. We've got some other pre-budget things that we need to discuss, and some other topics of the commission that y'all have talked about.
We had talked about city buildings.
Yeah, and we're working with the county to try to address the cast iron piping that's in the area outside the city that we're on and responsible for. The county's cooperating with us, trying to apply for a grant for that, CDBG grant in Harlem to replace some really outdated water lines, and there's a number of projects for that one. So
we've got probably some 1930 water lines in
really
the city, so we need to look at those too.
The north side of Harlem is a very old community.
Yeah, there's a section, what's the name of that street, Danny?
Della Tobias.
Della Tobias, that's really needs addressing. And we're getting continuous complaints from customers about it's not the quality of the water, it meets the requirements in the test, but it's other factors that aren't the way they'd like to see it.
Do we have this is another, we talked about roads, but water lines, the cast iron lines. Is that something that we probably have the information somewhere of all the, especially in the 1930s on the, what they call the reservation.
Well, the master planning, what we're looking at on that, and Joe, is Joe still here? Yeah, he's here. We could talk about it, but I don't want to get too much in it. But what we've done is identify several categories of needs. I'll say it publicly. Again, I never say this to be critical of anybody in the past, but this city has never had a master plan for water and sewer that we're aware of. I haven't seen it, and it needs it. Now, part of that may have been where the city didn't grow, at the pace that they thought was going to happen at one time. But when you grow, you've got to have a master plan because what we're doing is extending major size lines to the airport that the city is going to be responsible for, and they're coming off of, in some cases, we just did a major renovation with using ARPA funds, thank goodness, for this downtown area, and we're now getting ready to finish up the third phase over to Aztec on Commercio. And that got us fire hydrants downtown. But the city has had its original layout, very well done, well planned, but the utility system has not been a comprehensive master plan look. And when you've got development plans that are coming in of 800 here, housing units, 60 acres of commercial, 500 additional housing units in another section. That's a huge increase for the city, 1,400 plus residential units over the next several years, and those will have water line extensions. We've got to make sure everything's properly looped. I'll stop, Joe, if you want to add a few tidbits to what we discussed recently in a couple of meetings we've had.
Actually, I'm contemplating if I even need to show up for the workshop. You actually did pretty good with that. The best way I can describe it is past, present, future. So we would essentially just go through an exercise with city staff, whatever assets that we can actually capture from paperwork, mapping, even if it's the field guys' notes in their aerial maps of the water lines and sewer lines and whatnot. Capture that, figure out what assets the city has out in the field currently right now. That's the present aspect. So we would be able to map out the system, see what potential deficiencies there are with your current collection and distribution system.
It's much more than a new master plan. It's just finding out what the heck we got now.
Yes,
Well,
sir.
that's part of the master plan.
That is part of it. Exactly.
We've spent money for years mapping out what we have, and you're telling me we still don't have a map of what we have?
Well, for example, we have maps, but we don't have a unified document that covers the comprehensive view of the plant, the treatment capacity, what's expected to be added with its growth, and how much additional flows we're going to receive, and how water flows, and making sure that it's properly connected so you don't have lines that are undersized between two larger lines. We've got situations like that. So it's not so much that don't have maps, but we don't have a GIS mapping system, an electronic mapping system of our utilities, except for the pieces of new stuff. That's all we've got. So we really need to have it digitized universally so it's all on the county tax maps. Development folks can come in and see it without having to sit down and look at a pile of maps and try to piece it together. But I'll let Joe talk further. He's had some experience with this in a sister community, and it's an essential tool for us when we're in a growth mode that we believe we're on the cusp of.
And absolutely, and I do recognize the concern. We would actually, the maps that the city has already spent money on, plenty of money, as what you had described, we would be using that, and it's only part of the process that we would actually basically carrying it a step further. So there's no hydraulic modeling done for the city. So what does that mean? It basically means what is your current demand being distributed to your folks and what's being collected from your customers. And to our knowledge, that hasn't been done, but the efforts and the money that the city has spent on those documents, the mapping and whatnot, that would be a key part in doing this. So we don't have to basically reinvent the wheel there. But we would be going out and doing spot checks to make sure everything does line up from the paperwork and the mapping that the city has already completed thus far. And then carrying it a step further, we would work with planning as well as coordinating a little bit more with the county as well to see if there's any other potential developments as we move forward, if the city commission does so choose to actually approve the master plan efforts, that we'd be working with areas that have been earmarked for future development that the city would be a key stakeholder in for supplying and as well as collecting water and wastewater respectively.
And we're going to try to seek some grant funding to pay for this master plan development. That's why they've broken it into elements that you'll see. Like I mentioned earlier, the one on that we really need is that stormwater wherever the culverts are under the roads. I've forgotten how many of those we've got, but it's a lot. And it's a big number. It's $4 million of expense that we've estimated to repair them or replace them. And there's some issues with some of them where the crossing is not sufficient to carry sidewalks across. You have to get into the street to go around them. You know where those are around some of these culverts and where particularly where the canals are. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine. I was just going to add just one more thing, that reuse water would also be part of the discussion for the future workshop that we have
when the
scheduled.
plant is done, we want to have a plan for what we're going to do with this reuse water, as well as making sure that, and Joe brought up a very good point, because we're going to be serving with water and sewer areas that are not going to be in the city limits. And I know the city's done that over the years in some spots with Harlem and other places. But there'll be users that we've got to somehow come up with a projection for how much capacity they may use if that property gets developed along that corridor. And the county controls the planning on it if it's out of the city. So it's imperative that we have coordination, and they need to have access to our master plan so they can require of the developer that comes in, this is what you've got to do to meet the city of Clewiston's design requirements and capacity building issues. For example, if they're on the opposite side of the highway, they would have to do a bore. We're not going to do that. They're going to have to do it to tap into this force main that's going to the west. And so on. And I don't want to get too deep in it, but this is sort of a precursor. I'm glad you asked so that y'all can be thinking about it. But we want to have a master plan that is a living, breathing document that we can incorporate all the existing mapping and planning that's been done over the years into something that's user-friendly so that developers and others, interested parties in the city, can make sure that we're following that plan and that developers are aware of what it's going to take to develop a certain piece of property.
But this is also going to help us in knowing exactly where the oldest lines are at, so that we can go out for grant funding to get those lines done. I mean, I'm all for redevelopment, but also want to maintain and redevelop what we have right here already.
Sure.
So
you guys know we have a thing called Diamond Maps. It's a software. So we did a pole inspection. All those poles loaded into our system.
Right.
And now what we're doing, we've gone out where those 300 failed, we're changing those so we can put a date, where this pole is, the number, all the information on this pole, the size of the pole. So we do
On the electric.
On the electric,
But
right.
this will take the water sewer, which we have not done yet, so we're going to add that. We'll have digital mapping. We do have digital mapping.
And that's a good example. In that process, the city, and there's a lot of reasons for it, not something to really debate tonight, but what was the number of poles the city thought it had versus how many we actually had?
We're finding out we have 1,000 extra poles.
Yeah, and that's just nobody's fault. It just evolved that way because there was never an assessment, if you will.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Joe.
No, Commissioner Gardner.
We've talked a lot about development, and we've talked a lot about Highway 27. I know I'm excited about the corridor plan. I know that Randy, I think through the EDC, you're looking, there's a company or retail strategies that y'all are looking at.
Yes.
You know, I don't know how.
They're going to do a
people-
briefing to the commission. That'll be the January timeframe. That would be one of the topics for it. So you get some feedback on the downtown assessment that's been going on and give you some
Do you know if anything that's happening now within the city has anything to do with the study? I mean, I know that we've got a new tenant coming in there on Highway 27 in a vacant building, and I didn't know if there was any other.
I don't know for certain, but I think it has had an impact of the interest, but I don't know for certain if any of the ones that we're anticipating are coming were generated by that or not, because those folks are routinely very tight-lipped about it. But hopefully during this process, we're going to see, and you'll see the results of that analysis that's been done and the data that's been analyzed and the gaps that we have in our retail and markets that have been identified. It's really good data and good information.
And that's on
so
current right now, the gaps
that's
we
on the
have current, not with
but
future.
also what people are spending here with the technology now is just amazing, and where they're spending it. And you know, one of them just struck me was the amount of money coming out of this area of Hendry County that's going into building materials, for example, and other type products out of the city that might be satisfied if you had a supplier of that scale in the city. Restaurants was another really big one, no shocker there, and food. You know, obviously a big priority for our analysis is trying to attract alternatives or complementary businesses that will provide food. We're very much, in my opinion, a food desert here. And
You say food, you're talking about grocery stores.
Grocery stores and the like, and retail was another one. So it was really good information, and it's a lot of money being spent out of the city by city residents, and that's never going to change to some degree, but it sure would be nice to keep some of it here in some of these target
And I think
markets.
that should be our goal, is to try to keep as much money into the
Where
city
it's
as
competitive
possible.
and
Yeah.
where they should be, and with this development numbers I was throwing out, we make them aware of what's on the books and what's being planned and what permits have been issued. Hopefully, we'll see more of these, particularly the retailers and restaurants and these food providers. Hopefully, we'll see more interest and more announcements forthcoming.
And as you think by January, we'll have some kind of analysis at January meeting?
Yeah, they're working on the executive summary of the report they've done, and I believe that'll allow us in January at a workshop to receive that information.
I look forward to seeing that information. And the only other thing I have tonight is just to really wish everybody a wonderful and blessed Thanksgiving. I know that life isn't perfect. I know that all of us face issues, but we have so much to be thankful for in our community. And so I hope everyone has a wonderful Thanksgiving.
Ditto that.
I said the majority of my stuff in the beginning, but just happy Thanksgiving.
I think something we need to look at moving forward, talk about development and the number of possible new homes is impact fees. So the taxpayers don't take the brunt of this investment, that way be able to recoup some of it. I don't think it's unreasonable. Most communities do it, and we haven't. I think that's something we need to look at.
The county is actually in the process of that, and they've already asked, are we interested in joining in the discussion? And so I told them, yes, I believed we would be, but of course we'll come to y'all for guidance on it. And before we...
A lengthy process, right?
Yeah, it's a lengthy process. It doesn't happen overnight. So they're looking at engaging a firm that would do that analysis that you're required to do for it. And I think it would be beneficial for the city. I think the school system's also looking at it, and I don't know where they're at in their process, but I think the city should monitor it, similar to what we did on the fire discussion on the alternatives and methods on the fire fees instead of taxing. And so we will do the same thing here, just piggyback and tag along and see what we can look at in terms of whether the city wants to do it or not. And that'll be your judgment, the city commission's judgment.
Something else I think would be beneficial. Most cities when they're in session in Tallahassee, instead of just having the request sent forward and a suit shows up and it's a business transaction, I think it's important that a commission goes up and it's articulate to our representatives the need and why, and see our faces. They see suits all the time. They actually like seeing their constituents, and especially the representative of the communities. They have Palm Beach County days, they got Broward days, and, we're kind of dependent on somebody going up there and speaking for us. I think it's very important when it comes for that time. Maybe we have a day or two to go up there and speak to our representatives. Our lobbyists can make the appointments. That's predominantly what happens.
I'll certainly be glad to coordinate and arrange for as many of you as you can go. There's a process by which we can do that. We have to announce it and make the public aware, but
Very easy.
we can certainly do that. And I know the county did it, and we went as a group, LaBelle County, and not all the boards, but we had a delegation that went 2 years ago, and that was very successful. And so I certainly think this year is an important year to do that, and particularly with the leadership change in the Senate, that our senator is now in leadership role there. That should be a good time to do it. And so I'll certainly get the information, the dates of when's a good time to go. I don't discount what our lobbyists can accomplish when we're not there, but I agree, there's nothing like having local representation to come up there.
It's been a while back that we went, several of us went up there, LaBelle, Clewiston, and Hendry County. But I think, what the vice mayor's mentioned tonight is that we've never had a Hendry County day in Tallahassee.
That's true.
And I think that to me,
Haven't heard it
especially,
mentioned, in
no,
fact.
but I think we should look at it because we have as a county, and I'll speak for Clewiston, we're a fishing and farming town. A lot of the folks that are in Tallahassee, staff, elected representatives don't know about us because they're not going to travel down here. Maybe some of them will, but our elected officials do know us. But I think it'd be a great opportunity to showcase Hendry County businesses and the Hendry County government, in both cities and the county. Especially for fishing and farming, I think it's critical that we make the effort this year, as Kathleen is our Senate president, that we represent both cities and the
My
county.
experience.
And also, the Seminole Tribe of Florida. I mean, they might know the tribe, but they're here in Hendry County, and that could be a part of that as well.
My experience, they look forward to it. They take their time. You're not rushed at all. They want you to come. They want to speak to you. They want to see your faces.
Well, I will work with the county and that suggestion to see if they're interested in doing a county day, if you will. I know they go as a group, but usually a couple of commissioners and
Isn't that through the Florida Association of Counties?
The Association of Counties, and then I know the league has a day, and I've been to that a couple of times, but I don't know if we want to do it in conjunction with that. That's usually a good time to do it, but I'll give you the dates when they announce that, and
I think it's more effective, like the commissioner says, try to start a Henry County Days.
all right,
We have a lot
I'll bring that up
we have
with
a
the
lot of
county.
businesses here, that are manufacturing businesses, that are, think about the yogurt plant, and there's others that are in Hendry County that are manufacturing. And I think it would be important to showcase them, that we're proud of what we have here.
My experience with lobbying, they're amazed what comes out of this community. They're uneducated on what we do here. They
And our
just never been
fishing,
told.
best bass fishing.
Well, I'll message received. I'll see what I can arrange and see how many of you are interested in going. And we can make a couple of trips if we have to. It's not an easy trip, as everybody knows, so we want to get the most out of it we can. But I will coordinate first with the county to see if they're interested in doing it this year and work with them to try to set it up.
I don't have anything else. Just wish everybody a blessed Thanksgiving, and look forward to our next workshop, the 5th, 5 o'clock.
Be adjourned.
Second.
All fair say aye.
Thank you all. And you survived your first meeting, Miss Barbara.